Greetings, friends. Prepare for another thrilling journey as we delve into Reddit's most bizarre tales. We're plunging deep into the quirkiest corners of the web. Grab your popcorn and join us on this adventure. Remember to hit subscribe and like. Let's begin. 5 years ago, I, 36M, was married to a woman who I thought was my soulmate. In late 2019, her behavior changed dramatically. She was constantly on her phone, became distant and almost annoyed by my presence, and lost all interest in intimacy. I snooped and discovered she was having an affair with a coworker. I tried to forgive her and fix things, but it failed, and we separated, ultimately divorcing. The divorce, which took place during COVID, was slow, painful, and lonely. During the separation and divorce, I was horribly depressed and heartbroken. I did not see my ex-wife's affair coming at all. I thought things were great between us. She has still never given me a real reason other than it was a mistake, whatever that means. During this time, I leaned on my best friend Kyle, 36M, and his wife Megan, 33F, for support. Kyle and I have been friends since high school and grew up in a time when guys didn't talk about their feelings, especially not with other guys. His solution was usually, let's drink. Megan, on the other hand, understood I just needed someone to talk to. She reached out to me almost every day to check on me and was willing to talk about anything I needed to get off my chest. When I didn't have my kids and was stuck at home alone, she would drop off food for me some evenings. I had known Megan for years and already considered her a friend, but during this time, we became close friends. Kyle was well aware of how much we talked and told me he had no problem with it. He even joked that the more we talked, the less he had to. Towards the beginning of last year, I was doing much better, and Megan and I started to talk less as I didn't need as much support anymore. We did, however, still talk on a semi-regular basis. She began confiding in me that she thought Kyle was acting weird. He was working longer hours and seemed less interested in her and their kids. She struggled with feeling like all the housework and childcare duties were falling on her on top of her full-time job. I decided to talk to Kyle and tell him I was worried that Megan was getting unhappy. He told me to stop gossiping with his wife and stay out of their business. After this conversation, I did not bring up anything Megan was telling me. Things continued to get worse between them. Last summer, Kyle went on a week-long business trip, leaving an already exhausted Megan alone to deal with all of their responsibilities. Halfway through the week, she called me crying. Kyle forgot to cut the grass before he left, and it had become long enough for their neighbor to complain. I felt I owed her for everything she did for me during my divorce. I went over to their house and cut their grass. Megan asked me to stay afterward and eat with her and the kids. I was gross from cutting grass and tried to decline, but she insisted. I hung out with her and the kids until their bedtime. When Kyle got back, he was really angry with me. He told me to stop playing house with his wife because I was sad I couldn't keep my wife. That led to us not speaking for the better part of a month. We eventually made peace, but our friendship was never the same. Over the second half of last year, things stayed the same between all of us. Megan and I were close, and she regularly told me how unhappy she was. Kyle and I were friends, but not as close as we used to be. In January of this year, Kyle told Megan he was leaving and wanted a divorce. Even though Megan was unhappy in her marriage, she was devastated. Kyle's reasoning was that he was tired of Megan being sad all the time, and it was making him miserable. At this point, I heavily suspected Kyle was cheating on Megan because of all the similarities to my situation. In our state, there is a required period of legal separation before you can get a divorce. Megan went along with Kyle's demands to file a separation agreement on the condition that he would go with her to see a marriage counselor. As soon as the paperwork was filed, Kyle suddenly started seeing someone new and much younger than us. Things had come full circle, and Megan was right where I was back in 2020. I stopped talking to Kyle completely and was there for Megan just like she was for me. She told me how worthless and discarded she felt. I hated hearing her say things like that. She is such an amazing person. I remember feeling the way she did, and the thing I wanted most was to feel wanted. So I started to show her affection, with small gestures like hugs and back rubs when she was most upset. She started to reciprocate, and things kind of took off. We started dating and spending even more time together. We don't have a label or future plans or anything like that. She still has a divorce to go through, and we are both aware that she is pretty vulnerable right now, so we don't want to move too fast. Despite our efforts to keep our relationship quiet, the news found its way to Kyle. He has crafted a narrative where I am some kind of homewrecker who plotted against his wife and drove a wedge between them. This is completely untrue. I never tried to break them apart. In fact, I tried to help until I was told to mind my own business. This has not stopped him from telling anyone who will listen that I am a terrible person. Unfortunately, Kyle and my mutual friends have taken a very bros before anything else stance, and I have lost a few formerly good friends. I really don't feel like I have done anything wrong. Nothing romantic ever happened between Megan and me until after he had already left her for his upgrade. Yes, he calls his new girlfriend that. Am I wrong? AITH.